Hello, and welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal, I'm your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s till present, mostly large sharks. We're going to get started over in River Beach, which is in Florida. It's August 1966. Shawn Carpenter, 8-year-old boy, he is walking along the beach with his mother in the afternoon. He is walking along and the waves coming in, so he's in about 8 inches to a foot of water, and the mother is 2 feet closer to shore, so she's probably just getting her feet wet as she's walking along. She suddenly sees a dark object moving towards her son at a high rate of speed, and she just has time to reach down and lift him out of the water, and a shark goes right underneath him and beaches itself almost all the way up to the sand. The shark had to wait for a couple of waves to come in before one came in deep enough and it was able to wriggle itself free and head back out to the water. And as it did, they continued on their walk after it did, and they stayed further away from the water, as you can imagine, and they noticed that for the first 300 feet of their walk, there was 3 or 4 sharks just a few feet from shore following them along the beach. It followed them for 300 yards and disappeared into the deeper water. So probably a smaller shark. I'm thinking, I don't think this is, a 6-foot shark or larger. It would be kind of tough for it to not beach itself before it, made it all the way out of the water. I would think that, 8 inches deep is going to beach any larger, heavier shark. So I'm thinking it's probably 4 foot or less. They didn't mention, and it's 1966. So that's our story of Shawn Carpenter, no injury, and we'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to Fig Tree Bridge, which is Sydney, Australia. The date is January 6, 1912. James Edward Morgan, 21 years old. He is out swimming, and it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He's swimming along, and a shark comes up and bites him in the groin. And it sounds like that's pretty much the only injury besides defensive wounds to his arm and hand. He got himself to shore, and he was able to explain what had happened to him as far as the shark attacking him. The shark took his penis, it took his scrotum, and took the surrounding tissue with it. 2 days after this attack, the shark was caught. There was a 9-foot whaler, which turned out to be a Dusky shark, and it had his remains in it, and they were pretty much intact from when they were bitten off 2 days ago. Some reports are 3 days. I'm just going off of H. David Baldridge, his report of it. And it's actually from Coppelson, another man, that a doctor that reported it in the first place. So I'm going with their report. 2 days later, the shark was caught. Now we're going to head over off the coast of California, off the Farallon Islands, to date January 11th, 1964. Jack Rochette, 21 years old. He's out with about 14 others, and they're doing some spear fishing. So they're diving. They're about a quarter mile off of the west coast of the Farallons. They're in 50 to 60 foot deep water. It's around noon, and Jack is after a fish. He had taken a shot at it. He chased it down to the bottom of the water. I supposedly had to change over to a reserve tank before he chased it to the bottom. So he's on a reserve tank. He gets to the bottom, has it trapped in a crevice at the seafloor, and he's able to stab it. And he ran out of air just about the time that happened. So now he's going to the surface with this speared fish on his spear. He gets up to the top with the fish, and as soon as he gets on the surface, he's kind of lying flat on top of the surface. He feels clamping on his thigh, he said, thinking that it was friends grabbing onto him, some other divers. He looked around and saw a 7 to 8 meter great white attached to his hip. 7 to 8 meter, I'd think 23 foot. That's as big as they come. That's the biggest shark I've ever heard of attacking anybody. It had him by the lower hip, so the lower end of the hip, but the bite went all the way to his calf. It bit into the back of his calf, severing stuff in there. So you're talking all the way from the hip to the calf. Huge bite, grabbed onto him, shook him. He took his spear and poked it in the nose. Now the shark released him when he did that and swam away a bit, so he took his fish and he knocked it off the spear and watched it fall. And the shark ignored the fish and came straight up at him, and he stabbed it in the nose as it came after him, and it veered away again. Now this took place for about 10 minutes. shark coming at him, him hitting it, it disappearing, till finally a buddy of his, another spear fisherman, was worried that he wasn't going to be able to get out of there, jumped into the water, swam over to him, and slowly towed him back to the boat, which was fine now, because now the shark had changed its attention. Now it went to the seafloor. It's got 5 divers. 2 of them it's got trapped in a cave. The other 3 are hiding. They're planting themselves to the seafloor, trying to hide from the shark. They keep swimming around all 5 of them for about 5 minutes before it disappears. No other incidents had happened. Like I said, the largest great white I had seen. He had to go through extensive surgery. It took 7 surgeons to sew him up. And just a major shark. I wish I could see actual pictures of that one, because it's, you know, it's a sketch, and it's one of the biggest spans I've ever seen as far as a shark grabbing somebody. So very impressive as far as the shark, the size of it. They actually had a tooth that was very large, and the serrating on the thing is so big, I can't believe people don't feel that when it goes into their body. So that's an attack and an attempt to predate. That shark wanted to eat Jack. It had already done the test bite, and it was coming back, and not just once. It was 40-foot visibility, so there was no mistaken identity. That shark just wanted a piece of him. Kind of reminds me of David Lilienfeld, other than I think this shark wanted to eat him, and the other shark had no intention of eating David at all, even though it wouldn't stop until it bit him. So that's our story of Jack Rochette, 21. Okay, now we're going to head over off the coast of Texas, off of Padre Island. The date is August 19th, 1962. Hans Fix, 40 years old. He and his wife and kids, they go to the beach. He is doing some wade fishing, so he goes in. He's about 150 feet from shore. He's in, like I said, waist deep water, and he's got a stringer of fish or pieces of fish that he's using to fish with. So he's hoping to catch a couple fish, you know, some channel bass, I guess it is, or some other kind of fish. But he's casting out, and all of a sudden it's around 1:30, and he is grabbed on the leg. He's bitten in the leg. He screams, and he almost stumbles, and he takes and he starts hitting the shark with his the butt of his fishing pole. Shark releases. He starts to try to get away. The shark grabs him again. He falls down into the water again and grabbed him by the same leg, pulled him down again. He goes to get up again, and the shark bit him again. Now a friend of his, or a beachgoer, was going out to save him, and would not go out into that deep of water because he said it was boiling with sharks. Get that a lot, that there's, you know, a lot of sharks in the water. I don't blame the people. So Hans had to fight his way closer to the shallows, and then that gentleman helped him in. He had suffered 3 bites. The first one involved the knee and the calf, and I believe it pretty much severed the almost completely severed his calf muscle. The second one was further down on the leg, and the last one involved the ankle. So all 3 were to the same leg. He didn't make it. He passed away from it. He explained to them what happened as he got in. This was another case like Marcia Hathaway. His ambulance broke down, and it took another 20 minutes to get one to him. Traveling at 90 miles an hour, it took it 20 minutes to get there, and he did not make it. That's our story of Hans Fix. We're going to put that down as an attack and an attempt to predate. Okay, now we're going to head over off the coast of Queensland, Australia, to Gay's Corner in the Brisbane River. The date, November 27th, 1921. Herbert Jack and his son George, they're with a friend Thompson and his son. And at the time, it's around, it just says it's morning. They're wading out to a boat that is about 10 meters from shore, and they're in waist deep water. Herbert's carrying his son Jack on his son George on his back, and suddenly a shark comes up and grabs him by the hip. He beats on the shark, and he gets the shark to let him go and starts heading into shallow water, still with George on his back, and all of a sudden the shark comes back and grabs him again, grabs him by the arm and tugs him down. At this time, Thompson comes over and helps him up into the shallows. But George had been either knocked off during this scuffle or taken off by the shark, and he disappeared. He reappeared about 5 yards out into deeper water one time, and then he disappeared for good. Boat showed up right away, and they didn't find anything of the kid, so he was never recovered. The father ended up getting in and getting the stitches that he needed and getting sewn up. He had a bite to his hip, so the front of his thigh, his hip, his buttocks, his right elbow was severely damaged, along with the arm on the way up to the hand on his right side, probably from beating on the shark. And he ends up surviving that, but his son doesn't. And I'm going to put this down as 2 attempts to predate and 1 fatality. Okay, we're going to get to our final segment, which is what were you thinking? But first I wanted to go over a couple of books here. I finally got, there, can you see that? It's Shark Attack by H. David Baldridge. It says Jaws is all fiction and this is all fact. This book is from 1976. This book, I know exactly where I saw this. This is the first adult book I've had on shark attacks. This is where I got the information about the missing penis and the missing scrotum, as Shark Attack Files Global and others that copied the information didn't copy that part of it from this book. They're still playing little kid gloves games with people, but this gets into everything. Now, the good thing about this book is not only are you going to get a ton of shark attacks, really good attack stories and information out of it, but the other half of the book, it's like 2 books. The other half of the book is almost my foundation of everything I know about sharks. And I know I see people saying that, oh, you know, everything that was told before 1980 or whatever is not to be. I'll stick by Baldridge 100% of the time. If you get this book, you can go through, you can see the studies that the Navy did on colors that I had talked about in comments. You can see pretty much where I come up with everything. This is where it came from, between this book and the Shark Attack Files book that was out pre-90. That's where most of my shark attack stuff comes from, and then some of it's from Ron and Valerie Taylor books, other great white books that I have, shark books. But this thing everybody has to have. Get this book. I finally received this book, and it confirmed my worries about the International Shark Attack File, where H. David Baldridge came from. This is garbage. You get into page 10, the beginning of it's talking about Dr. Burgess, the leader, the head of the ISAF. Gets into him going and meeting with people and investigating. Get to page 10 and it starts into Jaws. This is a 37-page book. It isn't worth $1 to me. I would not buy this book. They have confiscated, they say right here, gator bites. They have taken over the ISAF and it's gone. So I don't think we'll ever get the information like we did from the first International Shark Attack Files book before. It didn't have international. It was Shark Attack File, and it was ran by the Navy. As soon as international and global came around, that was the end of us getting this kind of information from this book. The adult versions of attacks, I was stunned. I was 12 years old. I know exactly how I got the book. I was in middle school, junior high, and it was a book that was in the library, and I took it out and kept it. What were you thinking? We're going to go to Cook Island over in Australia in 1961. Bob Webb, he's doing some spearfishing, but he's got his jet ski above him, and he sees a wobbegong shark, which is a carpet shark, one of those crazy looking bottom sharks. He sees it swimming by, and he just grabs it by the tail and takes it up to his jet ski. He throws it up on the jet ski, on the deck of the jet ski, and ties it on there. He hasn't shot the shark. The thing's alive. It allows him to do all this stuff, and now the idiot gets up there and puts his feet where the shark is, obviously, to pull up his anchor. And as he's pulling up the anchor, that shark grabs him by the leg and will not let go. A friend comes over. Now 2 of them are trying to pry this shark's mouth off of him, and the more they pry, the harder it bites. They ended up having to stab it down the throat with 2 spears to get it to release his leg. Not sure on, if the shark had made it or not. Hopefully that didn't end up killing it. But man, what are you thinking? You're out there spearfishing and you're just going to drag yourself a shark and tie it to a jet ski deck, which I didn't even know they had a deck. I thought just your feet could be on there. So one of the crazier stories, I thought you Aussies. I'm assuming Bob Webb is from Australia, but you guys are a different breed a little bit. So that's our story. That's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I might be back tomorrow, hopefully. I'm going to try to get a couple more episodes out of here real quick. I got a little bit behind when I was a little under the weather, but I'm back. So hope to see you again soon. But remember, if you go in that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.